Good day, listeners. We present to you our podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a variety of topics that are important to the church. Examples include sexual abuse, all types of addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This platform provides counseling sessions, meaningful question and answer, and a counseling continuum. Our co-hosts include, this is Tennille, our technical director. We have an impressive array of program contributors. And I'm your host. My name is Prince, founder of Antioch Youth Center, 501(c) program, licensed counselor, now retired. So join in this exciting podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches, and be a part of the healing process. You know, friends, we talk a lot about those three areas, healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness. We like to focus on people who have been devastated church situations, unfortunately. And again, I submit to you briefly the book by Mr. Davis. Can you imagine? 40 million people have stopped attending church services. Shocking. And of course, you and I know folks that have been wounded or hurt for whatever reason, sitting home. We want to reach out to them. Also, there's a lot of young people, Church of God, who are just hurt and embittered and maybe confused. We want to reach out to those people. Now, it's important to talk to those who are being healed through trauma. And that we have tonight a good friend of ours, Brother Steve been the past couple of weeks. And he has a testimony of healing from trauma. He doesn't know it, but my background's in counseling, and I'm retired now, thank the Lord. But we use a book called the DSM-3. And I've been testing Steve for the past 3 weeks to find out, is there healing? And yes, there's healing, and we're going to find out how. So if you know someone who's been damaged, maybe a backslid, not coming to church services, this program is about healing after you've been wounded. Brother Steve is a missionary, really. He's been to Cambodia, Philippines, Ukraine, other places. He speaks Russian. They have a connection in Gaza. You know, Steve's father, prominent evangelist years ago and pastor. And of course, he planted the Filipino mission feeding program, which feeds over 1,000 young people a month. Exciting work. And so, but today he's here about his book. It's called 60 Years in the Church of God. Exciting read. Steve, number one, glad you are here. Let's give him a hand for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're glad, man. All right. Brother Steve, about the book, where can we order it?
You can get it on Amazon, or if you just contact me direct at my email, wingatesp@gmail.com, then I'll direct you. Like if you want a hard copy, and I'm not here to sell books, but the hard copy is the best way to go because it's long lasting. I can help you get that at my cost. Yeah, at the author's cost, which is like 1/3 of what Amazon's going to charge you.
All right. Since we got here about the book, what is a highlight? Why should one read that book? Give me a highlight about the book.
Well, it's not magical. I'm not anybody special that wrote it, but I am the one that ended up writing it. Nobody else did. I kind of thought somebody would have before now. I started to write a book on Revelation. It was called Revelation Equals Church History. And while I was in there dealing with the first beast, the dragon, the second beast, and the church history and how that they martyred and killed the Christians, I started a chapter called 60 Years in the Church of God. And when I started that chapter, I thought, well, wow, that would be a great name for a book. And what it does is it just goes through what we've been through. And it explained a lot of things, why things happened, what was going on behind the scenes when they happened, and things like that.
Well, I know a lot of people who went through what you're going through, and they've gotten bitter. They've left the church and just hurt. So it's a miracle to me to have you here before us. You're excited about God, been to Church of God meetings in the past couple of months. You're moving around witnessing. So for that to happen is a miracle. It really is. To go through what you went through and still smiling, emailing, texting, traveling, writing a book, that's excellent. So we want you to let you know what you did to help out someone else tonight who's going through that. And my first question to you, my friend, what was the hardest part of healing? What was the hardest part of your healing?
I think the hardest part of the healing is healing itself. And that's a dumb answer, but I know. But the problem is, especially when you are in a family that they're all hurting and they're all going through the same thing and the same pain that you are. A lot of times that spreads out within the family and it spreads out in different ways. And people have wondered. And I had one guy that read the book. I was telling you about him earlier. He said, now I understand why the Wingates are the way they are. That was his exact words. He said it really gave me some insight. It's easy to judge when you've lived in one city your whole life. You went to one church and you did
Right,
this, you did that.
right.
But then when you get into it and you're a church guy, preacher's son, and you see a lot of stuff through the years, it does affect you, but you can get over it. A lot of us have gotten over it, and we still love God.
And your dad was an evangelist, so
He
he
was a
traveled
pastor.
around.
He was a pastor until I was 12 when we moved to Cincinnati, and then he became a full-time evangelist in the Church of God. And we traveled like every summer. We'd leave as soon as school was out, and 10 of us, 8 kids, mom and dad, we'd jump in the big old giant ugly station wagon and we'd pull the camper and go from church to church. And he would preach a week or two on Revelation.
Brother
Wow.
Wingate, I do have a comment from Joe Blow. He said, Revelation is so much deeper than church history.
Well, I don't know how to answer Joe Blow, whoever he is, but I'll be glad to discuss with him why it's church history, because Revelation is, in fact, if you get on the beast, and I'm not here to debate theology with you, but I would be more than happy to talk to whoever this is.
Brother Wingate, your information, how can we contact you?
Wingate, my last name, SP, Stephen, as in Stephen Paul, @gmail.com.
Second question, how are you? We know that when these things happen, there's a lot of emotions. When church hurt occurs, from whatever reason or genre, how were you able to control those emotions?
Well, I haven't been able to control the emotions as much as I would like to sit here and pretend that I have. I think that it affects you through the years, but as you get older, look, I just turned 65 this week. You turned what, 69?
Excuse me.
Don't
All
don't
right.
tell anybody.
No,
So,
69 years old. I'm almost 70 years old, man. I'm an old guy now.
well, I love my age, and I tell people that I wish I could stay 65 forever. I'm old enough to be respected, but still young enough. But I think that as you get older, some things don't mean as much to you as they
Amen.
once did, and people's thoughts and their opinions. Not that you don't want their opinions, but I think you become secure within yourself and what you believe and who you are, so you don't question it like you did when you was younger.
That makes sense. How did you diagnose your issues? How did you understand what was what dealing with you as far as your pain and your damage to yourself?
Well, I know I'm laughing because it is kind of humorous in a way. It's a journey, and the
Yeah.
journey is that we have to figure out what's going on within ourselves. I think that it affected all of us, and I'm talking about Wingates. I believe most of us, if not all of us, have a desire to serve God, and we've jumped around looking for the perfect church, the perfect congregation, and we weren't sure about this, we weren't sure about that, so we go there, we go to one cleansing, or well, I'm the one that went to one cleansing. We go to, to Hagerstown, or we go to, this, or we go to that, and I think as you get older, you begin to realize that, look, God has people in all the groups and they love God. I believe that in all the groups there are Christians and people want to do what's right. And I'm not here to judge any of them, to be honest with you, unless they're committing a sin, then that's God's judgment on them.
We talk about healing, this idea of connecting the past with the present, or moreover, looking at the big picture. Many times, Brother Wingate, we have a focused view, almost like through a straw, but you've been able to widen your view to see the big picture. Tell me about that.
Well, I told you what I did at age 13. I wrote our former pastor in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we left there over the one cleansing split. And, I asked him for tapes and he sent them to me and I listened to them on a little cassette player. And then, then I Yeah, so my journey started actually at 13. And then I always said that I was going to move back to Cincinnati, which I did. When I went back to Cincinnati, we were involved. That church was part of the Newark group. And then, so I got to see a lot of that. I was exposed to a lot of the ministers there. And being a Wingate, when I went into the home, that opened a lot of doors for me because,
Sure.
I mean, where pastors would invite me into their homes after church, where they might not do it to most other people. But because I was a Wingate, not saying Wingates are special, but they just felt like there was a connection there for
Right.
whatever reason. And
Right.
so, I got to see a lot of stuff through the years, and a lot of it was good, some of it was bad. But I think that you learn to accept it and leave it with God, because we can't change people; they have to change themselves.
Right.
I do
Friends,
have a
I'm
question and
sorry.
a comment. I'm sorry.
Please.
Go
From
ahead.
Dennis Kidd. He said, "Thank you for the book, Brother Wingate. As you wrote the book, did you have a hard time writing it and forgiving those who troubled you? And when did the reconciliation process begin for you?"
I think it evolved over the years, and Brother Kid, it's great to talk to you. I'm going to come
It
there
is.
one day and see
It
you
is.
face to face. We were just talking about you a few minutes ago.
We were.
The book it wasn't, like I said, I sent it to two different people, but the manuscript before the book came out, because I wanted them to tell me, am I bitter in the book? Am I forceful? Am I rough? And one person said, no, you're not rough enough. I'm surprised that you weren't a lot rougher. And the other
Mhm.
person said, nope, you don't appear bitter in the book. You just appear factual. And that everything that you've been through, I think you need psychological help.
All right. All right. We got a break for a commercial. We'll be right back with psychological help.
Greetings. Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches is a weekly podcast reaching out to the disenfranchised, disconnected, or wounded. Remember, you are not forgotten. You went through a debilitating situation. As a result, we are reaching out to you in love with forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing. We also offer an exciting magazine called Arise. It's an excellent fit for class discussions or personal devotions. Arise can be purchased through our website or by calling 478-784-7600. This podcast was designed by Church of God for Church of God. Don't go away. Stay tuned for more exciting conversations. Thanks for listening.
Tonight, here we are with Minister Wingate about his book, 60 Years, Church of God. I do want to say this. Pastor Dennis Kidd, he gave me a book 40 years ago. It's called Wesley on Perfection. It explains this perfection idea. Brother Kidd, I got the book. I saw it a couple weeks ago. I got it right. I can see it from where I'm sitting. Thank you so much for that. My friend, Brother Wingate, our next question. You chose not to isolate yourself. Why did you do that? Why did you just isolate and go into a shell and just stay by yourself?
Well, I think that in so many cases we have looked inward. If you go and if you go to Isaiah, Isaiah said, "I saw the Lord; He's high and lifted up, and His train filled the temple." So there's three looks there in that chapter in Isaiah. Isaiah looked up, and then he had to look. He looked out, and then he looked in. And I think that we have to quit looking in so much, and we have to start looking out. And when we start looking out, then what happens is we find that people they're hurting, they're going through hard times, and I think that I could sit home and feel sorry for myself, but nope. I
Sure.
got out of the country and started feeding children. We didn't know the first thing what we were doing, but it happened. We're so thankful for the program, how it's evolved, and now we're in 6 churches feeding in those churches, and I don't have to be there anymore.
Beautiful. Friends, you've got about 9 more minutes here to talk to our guest tonight. That text number is 1-866-538-3664. And you've got time running away from us. My friend, Brother Wingate, uh, how did you reduce those triggers? Things people would say to you, or you see somebody. How did you reduce those triggers that caused those knee-jerk reactions?
Well, I don't think that you ever totally get over it. It's like a divorce. I don't think you ever totally get over that, or a death of a family member. I don't think you ever totally get over it. And it's just like, I was talking to Darren this week And, I was talking to him and he was telling me some things that I didn't even know or that happened to him when he was a kid, and then it kind of triggers in old feelings. And then what you have to do is you have to just tell them, look, you've got to turn over to God. And I believe he has. And you just try to move on because we're not a robot. We're not stone. I don't care if we're sanctified, we're still not a piece of stone. We still have emotions and feelings that God gave to us.
But when you're talking to a young person tonight, you were a young person, you were Church of God baby, we call them, grew up in the church, your dad was a
Yeah.
minister,
Yes.
and there's a young person, they went through a split. Maybe the pastor backslid or whatever, and they've been devastated. They've just been shocked. Any advice to them?
Look up, look in, and look out.
Mm-hmm.
If you look up to God, he's the author and the finisher of our faith, not man. I told my two daughters over and over, I said, never, I don't care what happens, because this world is not stable. And even the world around the church is not stable in many cases. The church is stable. The church is. But Jesus is the rock. We should never forget that. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. And I know we in the church of God, we love to lift up the church of God. And look, I'm not against church of God, so understand where I'm coming from. I heard a minister preach a message down in Cincinnati. I don't know if you knew him, Bob Rao from Lancaster, Ohio. He preached a message. It was called, the name of the message was called Becoming Disillusioned with the Illusion. And I got offended at that because I was so pro Church of God. And please, Church of God people are going to throw rotten tomatoes at me. It's okay. It won't be the first time or last time. But when I heard him preach that message, it offended me because I was like, well, but when I thought about his message, and through the years I thought about his message, we have an illusion of what the Church of God really is, or what it is versus what it really is. And then we have to become disillusioned with that, and we have to accept reality. Not that we're tearing the church down, but the church is the people. You know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. And and sometimes people are not perfect. People are carnal. Look in the book of Corinthians if you don't believe that,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if I was a young person, I would just say, look, I can't control this situation. It's like going through divorce. You can't control it, but what you make of it is up to you. It's not up to anybody else. You have to determine that.
So that young person, where should their focus be? Where should they be focusing on?
Well, there's a lot of good people around the Church of God, and if you look at you haven't received my book yet. I sent it over a month ago to you, but if you look at the front of the book, I will name 40 people, I guess, that had an impact on me, and they treated me with love through the years. I didn't name 40 or 50 others because I couldn't put them in my book and feel good about it. Yeah, but I say I'm so thankful that enough people treated me right. That what it did, it planted the seed that God helped that to grow and become something positive in my life.
You mentioned that word love. Is that important in forgiveness, in healing? Is that a major tenet in that area?
Yes. Love is it's the key thing. But I think the problem is the almighty tongue in the Church of God is that a lot of people just want to shoot off at the tongue about this or that, or they might hear gossip and they never go to the person that's been blackballed. And a lot of preachers are really bad at that. That's the sad part about it is, because we're never going to win all the time. When I was on TV in Ukraine, when they interviewed me on television, when I lived there, we built a business with 70 people, and I mean we were doing very well. And they asked me the question, brother. They said, "Your name is Wingate. Do you consider yourself a winner?" Now, this is what the Ukrainian journalist asked me, because the first part of Wingate is win. And I said, no, I'm not a winner. I'm a struggler. Because I learned in life that you don't always win, but if you struggle enough, you will win. And I think it comes down to the Church of God and to the things that we've seen, the negative, the positive, and whatever. If we struggle enough and don't give up, don't quit, you're not going to be able to stand before God on Judgment Day and say, oh, well, this preacher did this, or that one did that, and that one did that, and that's why I just went out into sin. God's not going to take that. He's not going to accept it. And I don't want to be on Judgment Day and have to tell God that I blamed it on other people. Because my dad, you say, you want to go to hell with the hypocrites? You don't like them here? Why would you go to hell with them? No, I'm not going to hell with the hypocrites. I'm going to go to heaven, and I'm going to hold on to that rock like I told my girls. hold on to the rock because Jesus is that rock.
So, young person, what are you saying tonight? Don't give up.
Yep.
Keep moving. Keep going. Is that what you're saying, Brother Wingate?
Yes, yes. And there are a lot of good people out there that you can reach out to. And this program is one of those people you can reach out.
Thank you for that. Our time is gone. Our director, any more comments coming in?
No, that'll be all for now.
Brother Wingate, so again, how can we contact you with the book or with Q&A? What's your contact information?
It's my email is the best. Wingate, my last name, WINGATESP as in Stephen Paul @gmail.com. And I will gladly talk to you. I would love to talk to you and be of help where I can.
Wow, that's nice. Thanks so much. To our director, thank you so much. Brother Wingate, thanks again. We love you much, man. We appreciate these couple of programs. And to our listeners, thanks for chiming in tonight. May the Lord bless you. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Good night.